What if I told you that you are condemned to be free? That there's no blueprint for your life, no higher plan, no external excuses, only you shaping yourself and humanity through your choices. Welcome to Jean-Paul Sartre's Existentialism is a Humanism. In October of 1945, Jean-Paul Sartre delivered his now famous lecture, Existentialism is a Humanism, in a Paris still reeling from the devastation of World War II. The audience was a mix of intellectuals and the general public, all grappling with the horrors of war, the collapse of traditional values, and the dawn of a new ideological age. At the time, existentialism was under fire from both religious thinkers and Marxists. Christians accused it of promoting despair, atheism, and immorality, while Marxists dismissed it as a bourgeois individualism. Jean-Paul Sartre, as a committed existentialist and a public intellectual, felt compelled to respond. He wanted to show that existentialism is not about nihilism or passivity, but about responsibility for creating meaning in a world without God or preordained values. So, what is existentialism? And why did he believe it offered a solution in a broken world? Let's start with the core idea. Existence precedes essence. To explain, he contrasts humans with objects. Take a paper knife. A craftsman designs it with a purpose. Its essence comes first. But humans are different. There's no divine creator designing us with a purpose. Instead, we exist first and define ourselves through our actions. Hence, existence precedes essence. Because of this starting point, humans are not born with a preordained purpose or nature. This freedom can feel overwhelming. If there is no fixed human nature, then every decision we make defines not only ourselves, but also what we believe humanity should be. When I choose to act, I'm affirming values not just for myself, but for all of humankind. In the lecture, this is summed up in the statement, "In choosing myself, I choose man." Choices are not isolated acts, they carry universal implications. A person who acts with generosity affirms generosity as a value for humanity. Similarly, a selfish behavior signals that selfishness is acceptable. Consider the decision of whether to join a labor union. If a worker decides to join, the choice reflects a commitment to solidarity and collective action. If not, the decision signals a rejection of those values. Each action shapes not only our personal identity, but also humanity's moral direction. And so freedom comes at a price. With no external guide to rely on, we experience what is called anguish, a deeply felt weight on our shoulders that arises from knowing that we are responsible for both ourselves and the world we project through our choices. This is one of the core concepts in existentialism, and I believe a breakdown of each is in order. First, let's talk about anguish. Sartre defines it as the profound sense of responsibility that comes with realizing the weight of our choices. He uses Abraham from Kierkegaard's philosophy as an example. Abraham is commanded by an angel to sacrifice his son. But how can he know it's truly God speaking through the angel? There's no real proof, no certainty. And this is anguish. Standing alone, knowing that your decisions define not just you, but all of humanity. You feel as though the entire human race is watching and measuring itself against your actions. Sartre gives another example. Imagine a military leader deciding to send troops into battle. His choice could mean life or death for others. There's no ultimate guidebook or guarantee. Yet, he must act nonetheless. This isn't the kind of anguish that leads to inaction or paralysis. Instead, it's a recognition of the gravity of freedom. He says, if you deny this anguish, you are acting in bad faith. What is bad faith? Well, to live in bad faith is to lie to yourself by pretending that you're not free and avoiding the responsibility that comes with your choices.
You might think you are guided by moral laws, he was saying to them, or that you act in certain ways because of your psychological makeup or past experiences, or because of what is happening around you. These factors can play a role, but the whole mixture merely adds up to the situation out of which you must act. Even if the situation is unbearable, perhaps you are facing execution, or sitting in a Gestapo prison, or about to fall off a cliff, you are still free to decide what to make of it in mind and deed. Starting from where you are now, you choose, and in choosing, you also choose who you will be.
Next, we have abandonment. Sartre says, God does not exist, and we must bear the full consequences of that assertion. What does he mean by this? Well, when Sartre says we are abandoned, he means we can no longer rely on God, religion, or any universal moral codes to tell us what's right or wrong. And so there's no divine plan, no higher authority guiding us. We are simply alone. Traditional philosophies tried to keep universal values intact, even without God. Just think of Kant's categorical imperative, the idea that morality is a set of universal rules. Sartre rejects this. Without God, there are no a priori values. And at the same time, Sartre insists this is not a hopeless situation. You're not bound by an external authority any longer. You're free to create meaning. Finally, despair. Despair is not about giving up. It's about facing the truth. You must act without relying on external guarantees or hopes for outcomes beyond your control. To illustrate this, Sartre uses the example of revolutionaries. Imagine fighting for social change. You can't know for certain that your movement will succeed, but you still have to act, knowing that the future is not certain. On this point, Sartre echoes Descartes. Conquer yourself rather than the world. Despair does not mean inaction. It means committing to action despite uncertainty. You accept responsibility for your choices without relying on fate, divine intervention, or even hope. The future is not fixed, but that's what makes our actions meaningful. You can't hide behind excuses or external forces. You must act, even when the outcome is uncertain. Let's ground these ideas, anguish, abandonment, and despair, in a real-world example. Sartre gives us the story of one of his students during World War II. The student faced a moral dilemma. His father had abandoned his family, his older brother was killed by the Germans, and his grieving mother depended on him for emotional support. Should he stay with her or join the French resistance to fight for a larger cause? This isn't only a question of morality, it's about responsibility. If he stays with his mother, he sacrifices his brother duty to his country. How does he choose? Could religion help? The Christian doctrine says, love thy neighbor. But who is this neighbor? His mother or his country? Or Kantian ethics? Kant says, treat humanity as an end, not as a means. But which action fulfills that principle? It seems that no philosophy or moral code can give him the answer. And so Sartre says, the student must face his freedom. No science, no higher authority, no external guidance. He must choose, and in doing so, invent meaning. This is the essence of existentialism. The student's choice is what gives his life meaning. It's not about picking the right option. It's about taking responsibility for the decision, knowing he alone defines its value. In the end, existentialism is both a challenge and a call to action. You are free, you are responsible, your actions define you, and humanity. So ask yourself this: what kind of world do you want to create? What values will you embody through your actions? Remember, existence precedes essence. The rest is up to you.